this is Owen.
And I'm Veronica.
And we're from Urbane Cyclist in downtown Toronto. And today we're going to be doing another episode of Bike Banter, and today we're talking specifically about some bike lane etiquette.
Having good manners while you're riding.
So we were talking a little bit last week about bike safety, and we kind of came to the fact that there's a few kind of pillars that of implementation and design that are really important for like good, safe bike riding in the city, or just anywhere really. And we have kind of like the design of the infrastructure, the implementation, or like how they put it in, the actual usage, and then of course the enforcement. So for a little clarity, we just kind of feel like if we think about a road with no bike lane, a soft shoulder, like just gravel that kind of falls off, there's clearly no design there. Therefore, there's like no implementation. The usage is like terrible.
Nothing
because
to implement.
Yeah, it's really unclear what you're supposed to do. And of course, there's nothing really to enforce other than just like, no one can agree where the bike should be. So I think that kind of frame of reference is how we can apply that to obviously like, we talked last time about College Street bike lanes, or we've gone on rides, talked about Bloor bike lanes. But like design is, I think, the most critical starting point because everything kind of falls into place after that point.
We're going to speak today assuming that there has been a designed piece of infrastructure. We're going to speak as though it has been implemented well. And the kind of thing we're going to be talking about is the usage. How are people using it? And like, how are we treating each other when we're sharing this infrastructure?
Sharing the road.
Sharing the road.
So to start us off, we're going to talk a little bit about some of our kind of pet peeves that motivated us to talk about this and just general etiquette. And I think the one that stood out with both of us was passing at a stop or jumping the queue of riders. So like as you're approaching a red light or a stop sign and you are slowing down or stopping or stopped, when people start to filter forward and just kind of join you at the front when there's like multiple people behind you, that's probably one of my biggest frustrations.
I think also when I'm approaching a stop and people are side by side, that means I can't get around. If I need to make a turn at this intersection, I have to wait for everyone to clear it. And also it's just like, it's creating a blockage for no reason other than you wanting to get ahead. And furthermore, you might not even be getting that far ahead in the first place. You are assuming that you're faster than someone who's at a dead stop. You haven't seen this person riding necessarily. It's bad manners to be jumping a queue when you're in line anywhere, and that includes at a red light.
Yeah, I think also one of the other things we don't like about it is it just like people are basically passing judgment. They're like, you look slow, I'm pulling up behind, I'm just gonna just butt everyone because I'm definitely faster. And like, there are some instances, like if I'm commuting to work versus going for a sporty ride, I'm all kitted out. I get it if someone's kitted out and they're going and they don't want to be stuck behind like a whole train of commuters. They're going for like a multi-hour ride. I get it. And that doesn't bother me. There are some exceptions to this being like, okay, it still does clog up the front. It inhibits potential movement, but sometimes it makes sense just to like, you know, have less close passing mid-block. So I don't hate that, but I think it's just the judgment aspect frustrates me because it's like, oh, you just think I'm slow. And then of course, you know, we're not always slow if we look slow. Or I did actually have someone who had the squeakiest chain I've ever heard. And
so you heard them coming. You knew they were
I heard them
behind
coming
you.
and they did that. And the worst part was they were also running every light, running every stop sign. But because I was faster than them, I basically just like, I could have passed them, but it basically meant I was just stuck behind them repeatedly for like so many blocks when we were not going the same speed at all. The only reason they were getting ahead is from running red lights. And I was just like, I'm not associating with that.
I think that happens to me very often where I am riding behind someone who is a little slower and I'm like using my manners and I'm not trying to get around them. I'm just taking my time. I'm generally not in a huge rush. And then they will do things like run stop signs, run red lights, and they'll get further ahead, but I'll meet up with them again. And then there will be times where I do pass them between lights, but then they will go around me in order to go through the red light, and then we will end up in the same situation.
Or you're still stuck behind them.
Yeah, I think like by the second or third time that I've gone around someone, I'm very close to just leaning over and being like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Stop stop doing that.
I've had people do that too, and you can tell they think it's like a sort of like gentle competition.
A fun little game.
Like, oh, we're having a race. Yeah. And I've had to actually tell people like, I'm not racing you. This is like, it's actually impeding like my travel just by having you in front of me consistently.
It's not a fun little game. I am trying to have fun while I'm riding. It's super nice to interact with others and like, feel like you're part of, the bike community.
Yeah.
But I think we're all just trying to get somewhere. I think that is like the end all be all of my thoughts on this, on etiquette, is we are all trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
All of us. Other people are trying to get somewhere. I'm trying to get somewhere. And doing things that make it harder for people to get somewhere, not nice.
Well, you know what it kind of reminds me of? Driving a car and how miserable that experience is. Yeah, driving. And you're just like, and I was like, we're at such a, like, I feel like a mission critical moment where you're getting infrastructure and it's like, if we just actually use it right and share like nicely, it will be so much better. And it just is, it's going to only foster the like being better and better and better the more we get. Because there will be a point where the infrastructure feels like not enough. Once we have enough uptick of cyclists, the infrastructure is going to be full and it's going to be hard to move around. And the more people doing things unpredictably or wrong or just like rudely, it's just going to make it like gridlock, just like the cars. Like people butting in, slamming on the brakes, and it's like that's not fun to ride.
That is the thing that I think is also the link point. We shouldn't be bringing a car mindset into the bike lanes. We should try and be better than drivers. Like, we should be nicer to each other, That's a hot take. Yeah, I want us to demonstrate, like, look how much nicer everyone is here. Look how much nicer it is to take a bike, rather than I'm going to be fighting the same people and I'm going to have to be pedaling. Like,
you know what? This actually reminds me a little bit of Bike to Work Day, because we were hundreds of people riding down Bay Street on the right lane.
The 19 bus.
Yeah, well, we got, my group kind of got stuck. The group I was in kind of got separated and pulled back a little bit, and there was kind of a lead group, and they got ahead, and we got kind of stuck behind a bus. And obviously we're like riding to work, we're going to Nathan Phillips Square, we weren't trying to rush. But then you have the car mindset doing the filtering thing, where people were trying to steer into hundreds of tightly packed cyclists, thinking this person, oh, I got to get ahead of these people, I need to make a right turn. But instead of like, maybe like going around or passing like in an empty block, like theoretically they could have gone straight past to the next block, maybe double backed, whatever. But they chose to force their way into the like group of cyclists. And also everyone was polite about it. No one was worked up. We're, it's a Bike to Work Day event. We're having a good time.
The pace was challenging.
Slow. Yeah, it was a very slow pace. So I get it. But it's like, you're one person in a car, you showed up late, we've been here already, we're waiting patiently, and then these people just want to butt in. And that's kind of why I think the sentiment of like bikes doing the same thing is frustrating. So I'm like, I know fundamentally most bikes don't want to be doing this, but there's a select few that keep doing it, and it just perpetuates people like, oh, if I can just get up at the front. No, I firmly believe, you arrive in an order, you stay in that order. If you're faster, it'll shake out.
Yeah, not to dunk on cars too much as well. I do have another thought.
Not to dunk on cars, but let me just dunk on cars again.
But like, I think not to dunk on cars too much, but when they are traveling at a speed that is not impeded by cyclists, and they're not interacting with cyclists at all, sometimes they still fly into like a total rage. People lose reason a bit when they see a cyclist around using the road with them. Oh, yeah. Like when there is no bike lane, for example, and there are parked cars next to the curb lane, so cars cannot use the curb lane regardless, and I'm traveling next to them. Maybe I'm traveling faster than them because there's traffic. There is this like rage and this like, I need to get around this person and do something, even though there is this like lane of parked cars. They're not mad at me. They're angry that they can't use the lane, which is taken up by other cars. But like, they do get kind of overcome by it. And that is kind of the passing mentality, right?
Well, I mean, just another example of that. I've had an experience of like, I was coming down Lansdowne. It's a big hill. I had my GPS on, so I knew exactly how I was traveling. So I was coming back from a big ride, and I was actually technically going exactly the speed limit, maybe speeding a little bit, because I'm going downhill, I'm pedaling, I'm coming in fast, had a good warm up. And I had someone like close past me, but I was like, they're doing 70, and I can't remember if it's a 40 or a 50 zone, but still they were going way too fast because they just got like tunnel vision, like, I need to pass the cyclist, I need to pass the cyclist. And you're like, and of course, we end up at the red light beside each other, and I was just kind of
But they got there first.
They did get there first, in fairness, but I was like right behind them, and I was just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, that's so dangerous and unnecessary. They had to go into oncoming traffic to get around me that was like not impeding traffic at all. I was arguably going too fast for the area, and I kind of was like self-conscious about going too fast through this like, anyways.
I mean, to be fair to drivers also, it can be really scary when you're a little bit unsure about how big your car is. Like, you don't want to clip this person, so you want to give them a lot of space, for example. And maybe the cyclists are traveling unpredictably because they're like a new cyclist, or they're just not very confident. I can understand wanting to give someone a wide berth, but if it's just to fight them to get ahead, maybe rethink that, right?
So we have kind of went off on that one. That is, I think, our biggest
It's
like
my biggest
frustration.
pet peeve.
It's probably our biggest
pet peeve. The
pet
other ones
peeve.
I'm gonna just like let fly, I'm sure.
So this one is really simple, and it's just going the intended way of travel. I will say there are some confusing new bike lanes. Sometimes there's contraflow, but like if it's just a normal bike lane and you are supposed to go the way of travel, go the way of travel. Because it's probably my biggest frustration where I feel like I'm playing chicken with people, and I'm like, okay, like I'm already going like comfortable cruising speed. Do I have to slam on the brakes? Am I dodging? Like, and also because of that unpredictability of that person, I'm like, well, I don't know if they want which way they want to go. Like, I know which way I would tend to go, but like they're kind of like doing something different, and you can tell they're like the gears are turning, and you're like, okay, it's literally chicken, and I don't want to be playing chicken while I'm riding a bike.
On wider streets, like up Bloor and St. George, going eastbound, those are very, very generous wide lanes. You could fit two bikes side by side, maybe.
Also, well, with the construction, it's effectively converted itself. It's just kind of like, you know, nature's found a way to reclaim this bike lane to become bidirectional.
I think it's more that you're not supposed to be doing that, but people are able to. So it's kind of like.
Well, I think it's like one of those things. There are certain areas that are clearly like okay, Bayview is a great example. There is a bidirectional lane on one side, and if you're gonna go up River Street, you need to like change sides, and then it feels like a bidirectional lane. But if you actually look at the markings, normally you'd travel on the right side, right? We're in North America, we're traveling on the right side. And then you look down and you realize that's the pedestrian walkway, actually, and you're supposed to be on the left side of what looks like a contraflow lane to then travel up out on River Street, which...
Also, you have to know exactly where you're going, and you have to be very familiar with the roads in order to travel there.
Absolutely.
Or else you will kind of get funneled into an area you don't want to be funneled into.
Or you have to cross in a dangerous way. So I actually...
It's like impossible to cross there. It's like...
I got a bug here.
Yeah.
I took that lane... Oh my god, we're going to be plagued by this one bug. I took that lane so...
It's loving the lights.
I took that lane, though, probably half a dozen times before I realized I was in the pedestrian walkway. Ooh. In fairness, there's almost never anyone in the pedestrian walkway.
Because it's scary to walk there. You don't want to be walking there as a pedestrian.
It's like the last spot I would think of walking. But anyways.
Also, I think the pedestrians are closer to the cars than cyclists are, based on the layout.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Sorry, wait. Pedestrians are...
outwards towards traffic.
No, they're in. They're on the inside. It's a little... It's a blur. It's confusing having lanes on both sides of a roadway, and they're split up in not consistent ways. Because when I think about it, it's like, okay, easy example is College Street. There's bike lanes on both sides of the street. When you're going one way, you're following traffic. You're going the other way, you're following traffic. It's very logical. And I think that's my biggest point of frustration. There's
you say it's logical, and yet people will travel however they please, right?
That's, I think, why it's so frustrating, because it's like you do have a space over there, I have a space here, but still there's this weird area. And again, there is still... So back to the whole design implementation thing, there is a short section of College connecting... Oh, what is that? Near Bellevue? Or Bellevue, is that right? Near Kensington. it's near the fire hall where it's actually goes from
I know
a
the
single
one, yeah.
to a split, and you're like,
That's Borden.
Borden, thank you. Yeah, near Borden, where it just for some reason has to be bi-directional for like
No reason, but it doesn't do it for any purpose.
But no one has. I take that every day. I've never seen almost anyone. Maybe once I saw someone use it the opposite way, but it's still people are using that to pass in that section. I'm always slowing down to yield because I'm always like, someone's gonna come and they have the right.
Like that triangle is also placed in a way where like if you do follow, it's just dangerous.
Also,
I find it stressful.
Back to the implementation. That specific area is also one of the poor drainage areas where it's like if it rained in the last 24 hours, it's a huge puddle. So you're like doing this weird swerve to, anyways. So this next one we've already kind of touched on, just following the rules of the road and being predictable, I think is super important. Checking your surroundings before you're making a move. I think something that a lot of cyclists forget to do, because they forget they are a vehicle, you know? They do the thing where they don't even do an Idaho stop. They don't stop and yield at a stop sign. They just swing into traffic from like a side street.
Or signal your intentions. That's what signaling's for. Take a look around, see if there's anything coming, like another cyclist perhaps, or a pedestrian.
The most common close call that I have with cyclists is I'm going normal speed, like probably less than the speed limit. So like quick, but not that fast. But then they just turn in, just deadlocked forward and only look the way they're going, not at what they're turning into.
But it could be from anywhere too.
Yeah.
Coming off the sidewalk, coming out of a lane, coming from the opposite direction. Yeah. I think people are very like, I'm on a bicycle, I'm not really going the same speed as a car, so I'm not very dangerous maybe. But also, yeah, you're still
I think that one just shows like a lack of care and empathy for fellow road users and fellow cyclists. And I just really want people to like remember, just like look around, like shoulder check before you signal. It's not that hard to do. It's like literally just looking around, pointing at stuff. It's like such a low bar. And I think that one, I've actually had people commend me and join in when I have like a few friends and I'm pointing at stuff, pointing at like things to watch out for. No, but people actually, like, I've had people be like, oh my God, that was so great. I've never gone through the city so quickly and safely. I'm like, awesome. Like, it's like a very nice little camaraderie. You get this little bike train going.
We're working together, we're pointing at things, showing each other.
Then all of a sudden, being like in bike traffic is like, you're not isolated, you're actually like together and you feel like you're like, oh, the person in front of me cares about what happens to me and is aware of what I can see and what I can't see. So I just think like, I know some people that goes like signaling's for nerds. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways because people around me appreciate it. And if they don't appreciate it, it's really not a big deal. Like you just forget about it.
Riding in a predictable way is also for your own safety. Like when you are, I'm going to go back to like the cars parked in a curb lane area. Sometimes I will see some cyclists go inwards towards the curb and then back outwards because they think that staying closer to the innermost area is the safest way to travel for them, but that's actually not true. You should continue in a straight line. You want to communicate that you are traveling in a certain direction to people. Pulling aside could mean you're stopping as well, and people might want to get by, and then you coming back out is a dangerous thing. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point too. Is signaling sometimes is redundant. Like slowing signaling when you're coming into a red light. It's not really necessary. You see the red light, there's an assumption you made. And I find it honestly almost weird because it's like I can perceive you're slowing down. I see I'm looking up, I'm looking ahead. I'm expecting you to slow down. That's normal. If you don't slow down, I'm like, red flag. What's happening? But it's funny, I not enough people signal, so I realized I've grown to not expect it. So someone was clearly pulling over, they signaled, and I was just like, oh, we're not even close to the red light. And I was like, oh, you're pulling over. Thank you. Like I was like, actually like shocked. I was like, oh, wow, thanks so much for actually telling me what you're doing. Moving on again, because we were going off here. So the next 2 points are kind of interconnected. And it's just don't ride distracted. Just put your phone away. Like I think a great segue, because if you think about how easy it is to pull over on a bike and how annoying it is to ride a bike with like one hand while you're trying to read stuff, just like it's so easy to not be riding or and be on the phone, answering a call. I mean, in theory, you could do like a hands-free thing, sure. But I'm going to make this one point because the secondary part of this is don't ride with earbuds or headphones. Like fundamentally, you are just shutting yourself off. it's a car thing to do. Just shutting yourself off from your surroundings, and then you can't hear things around you. There are workarounds, there are exceptions. One thing I actually recently adopted myself, because I stopped listening to music many years ago. I will admit, in my youth, I used to listen to music while I rode, and I had some bad experiences, and I was like, this is actually so unnecessarily dangerous. And my instance was, I was listening to some like probably super loud techno or dubstep or something ridiculous, and I was like, well, that's a really weird siren. I'm going through a green light. I didn't hear a fire truck coming down in an emergency with their siren and their horn on, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only person in their way. And I felt like such a fool, and I was like, that was actually the point where I stopped. I just like was like, that was a bad enough experience where I needlessly put myself in danger. I'm also endangering other people. I'm also slowing down response times because I'm being self-centered. It's like, I want to listen to music.
That is a case where bikes actually slow down response.
Yes. And I was like, I felt appalled, and I was like, I never want to be in that position again, to be like, I was totally in the wrong. I was totally the bad guy. I stopped listening to music for years, but someone introduced me to bone conduction headphones. They don't plug your ears.
That's a tip from Aaron Marchak, who
thanks,
we will
Aaron.
shout out.
Thanks, Aaron. I was so enamored with that. I was like, it just touches in front of your ear, and the great thing is you can hear your music, but you can also hear your surroundings. The funny thing though about that is, because it doesn't plug your ear, it actually, if you're going fast, you can still get wind noise. So I'm like, if I'm going above 30 kilometers an hour, so I'm like, oh, it's wind noise. But if you're just cruising around, like, why would you not want that? It's also way less sweaty than a headphone.
I mean, people also put speakers on their bikes, and I feel like that's okay too, as long as it's not too loud. Sometimes it is just like, it's distracting for me. I'm not able to be aware of my surroundings because someone is next to me.
I'll be honest, I think it's really annoying. Loud. I don't think it's
annoying
that problematic.
Or not.
It's a pet peeve, but it's like, it's not like, oh my God, I feel unsafe, someone's listening to music. It's kind of like when someone has their windows down, their music's blaring. But
it's annoying too. It's also
a threshold.
Like, I can't hear other stuff that's going on because you're like next to me.
There's a volume threshold where it becomes a safety issue. Where it's like, if I can't hear other things around me because your music is so blaringly loud, that's a bit problematic. If it's just like you're listening to music, like, that's a good time. And it's like the other workaround for bone conduction headphones or like a small speaker. Sure. I don't really have a problem with it, but just like, don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Sometimes you don't want to hear some stuff.
I think that might be the common thread in all of these, is kind of just don't be a jerk. Just be considerate.
Be nice.
Be nice. Drive side, shout out. So the next point was going to be a little more on the nose for like traffic movement, and it's to be assertive, but also be defensive.
This one's hard though. If you're not very confident, it's not very hard. It's very hard to.
It is.
Yeah, want to take up space.
Being like, purposeful with both like indicating what your move is, but also like, being mindful to not getting squeezed out in traffic. Like if there's not a bike lane, I learned the hard way of back in my day when we didn't have bike lanes on Danforth. I was riding to school and I realized like, if you squeeze the curb, you're just, first of all, allowing people to squeeze by you when there is not safe space, there's not safe passing distance, but also then you're in the like ditch of the whole street. You're like pushed in near sewer grates, all this like rough stuff, especially in Toronto. The roads are awful usually. It's like the norm to be awful and rough. And I was riding an old road bike and I actually had a crash because I just got basically stuck against the curb because I was too close. My wheel went against the curb and I couldn't turn away either way. And I was like, I literally just ran into a planter, which felt so foolish. I was like, I was being so conservative with taking up space on the road that I ended up crashing by myself. And I was like, that was a huge learning experience. I was like, I should have just been over 1.5 feet and been a little more assertive to take the space that I'm legally entitled to have.
Yeah, those are early days learnings.
Yeah, that's an easy one to avoid. You are entitled to take the lane when needed. I think the other weird thing about bike lanes, there's this confusion of, there's a bike lane, you need to be in the bike lane.
Or you can only be in the bike lane. You can't be in other places on the road.
What happens when the bike lane ends? On my way into work this morning, I can throw this up in the video. Literally just without notice, there's just a closure. There's a big truck parked here. I think
legally they're supposed to telegraph that there will be a lane ending.
And the irony was there's a cop standing right there in the shade on the sidewalk, not directing traffic, not helping people merge, just hanging out because he legally is supposed to be there. But it's so frustrating to see that kind of like, we just got this bike lane and it's not even open. I digress.
It's a parking space. But yeah, like there are times where a car will be driving so close to the curb that you're not able to safely go on the right-hand side, and traffic will be at a standstill. You are allowed to like go around them, right?
You can filter. I mean,
Right.
that in all honesty, I think it's like we'll get a little more
I
into
had
this
someone
later.
chase me to school because I did that once.
Really?
Yes.
So, especially when traffic's at a standstill, it's a fair game. It's a little. What I have had though is when I try to pass on the left when someone's hugging the curb too closely, I have had other really pushy cyclists trying to like rip through and like pass me when I'm yielding to them, but like you have to be mindful that other cyclists might be doing similar things, and it's tricky. I'd say if you're unsure, you should just wait. That's always the safe move, is just sit and wait. It sucks to sit in traffic, but like it's not the worst thing. It's just like being in a car. But
yeah, we're all trying to get somewhere.
Exactly, we're all trying to get somewhere.
We're all trying to get somewhere.
And I think for some people, it's not, when you're in a car and someone passes you on the left, you're like, whoa! I think it's like, it can be jarring. Let's be honest. There's lots of, road users in general, there's lots of bad ones. There's bad cyclists, there's bad pedestrians, there's bad car drivers.
There's some really, really bad cyclists.
There's some awful cyclists. And that's also why we want to talk about this, is like, nudge people in the right direction of like, maybe do stuff more normal so we can all have a better time. But I think for some drivers, they're just like not that good at it. I also hear people taking their tests outside of Toronto, even though they live in Toronto, because it's easier. It's like, why would you take a test to make it easier than your daily experience? And of course, if you go to like some small town in Ontario, you're not going to see...
Where there's no people on the road.
And there's no bikes probably, and there's no bikes driving or like riding to get anywhere.
Of course it's easy to pass, because you're just cruising around in a car.
But if you imagine that's your like baseline and that's what you're understanding, and then someone passes you on the left, and you're like, oh my God, someone passed me on the left, and you're in a car just as... It's not dangerous for the person in the car, unless you're doing something unpredictable. But we're going to talk a little more about cars migrating to the right later, but a few of these are almost like painful to say out loud, because this is general etiquette we're calling this, and also just pet peeves. But like we already said, to signal your intentions and communicate. So if you're turning, it's good to signal. Like often on a bike, turning right's not a big deal, but cars really do appreciate, like if I'm approaching an intersection and there's cars waiting to turn left, and I'm not going straight through, I'm just turning right, it's nice for them because they can then, they're turning right, they know I'm turning, I'm not going in their line of travel.
We can travel together.
Exactly, we can go together, we can be partners in this, we can do a good job and follow the rules. And I think just like being courteous to other riders too, like I mentioned earlier, like indicating you're slowing mid-block if you're pulling over somewhere. The other great benefit about bikes is you can stop anywhere, whenever pretty much. But it is nice to just point out when you're stopping, not with a traffic light, not with a street, not with a signal.
I think if you are like really sucked into your phone, you might also, this is a distraction thing, you might not realize that you need to signal that you're stopping. You're like, I know I'm stopping, so I see my destination is here, I'm just gonna slam on the brakes, but the other people behind you don't know that. They don't see, especially if you don't pull over, you're just like, I'm gonna stop now.
Yeah, and the next one, we're just going to blow through the last couple. Stop at red lights. Like, it's not a cool move to like just get in everyone's way and like...
Oh yeah, congrats. You're smarter than everyone else. We didn't think we could go. You're just so different.
Yeah, just outside the box thinking. Big time. And the irony is I find most riders that do this are never the fast ones. Like there's the odd like hardcore messenger. I don't feel like people do that as much anymore. Like back in the day when there was less traffic, I think there was like more room to get away with weird big traffic moves, go through red lights, you're in a race, whatever, sure. That's not the daily use, and that just sets a precedent for people who are like mid-level cyclists who think, whoa, I just saw that messenger do that really cool cutty move through that red light. I think I could do that too. And I've seen people just get stuck in the middle of an intersection. I actually do think I have video footage I might be able to dig up of someone trying to run a red, getting stuck in the middle of Bathurst and College, and then just like getting in like many people's way, and it's just like such a face palm. I'm just like, oh God, it's painful to watch because there's nothing cool about it. And of course, they didn't get anywhere faster. They just impeded lots of people, endangered themselves. They got into the intersection and couldn't clear it because there was traffic because the other people had the green. So the next one is another easy one. It's just don't pass open streetcar doors. Like That's one of my pet peeves for people in cars, and I just
And
feel
yield
like
to pedestrians in general.
yes, exactly. Pedestrians, I feel like we're talking hierarchy of importance for the road. Streets are for people. People, pedestrians, they get first spot. You yield to them, even if they're doing the wrong thing. You usually should be yielding to them. The exception might be when people are riding like shoulder to shoulder in the bike lane when they're in the wrong spot.
Or walking shoulder to shoulder.
Walking shoulder to shoulder, yes. Pedestrians walking shoulder to shoulder, blocking the whole bike lane, and you're like, there's one thing over there. That can also sometimes be a design issue because it's just not signaled very clearly, so the usage fails because the design isn't good enough to make it clear where they should be walking. So I don't take that personally. I don't take that out on that person or those people in that case. But I do try to like let them know I'm yielding, I'm gonna slow, ring my bell, tell them how I'm passing. Still usually is kind of confusing and they're usually kind of a little flustered. Even if you barely are moving when you pass them, they're just shocked because they don't expect anyone else.
People can be very mean. People can be very mean.
Yeah. I will say there's a pretty, again.
Even when they're wrong.
There's tactful ways to approach those situations. And I think the funny thing, just a total sidebar, is bells on bikes is such a funny thing. It's legally you need it. Using it, it's like a roll of the dice. Some people are so angry. They hear a bell, they're just
Well, some people are
mad.
like, oh, thank you, or whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
you
thanks
get-
for letting me know you're there.
Such polar different experiences. Ring your bell. Oh my god, thank you for letting me know you're there. And then, why, I heard you, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, but you heard me, but you like also didn't let me get by in any way.
Well, sometimes I also like to verbally say I'm passing on your left or I'm behind you or whatever. And this also causes people to fly into a rage sometimes or like be unsure about how to handle themselves. Like they don't know where to go or they start like veering over in front of me. And yeah, it's good to know what's up.
Oh, I think also the longer I've ridden on the road, I feel less emotionally invested when people mess up. Because it's like, there is wiggle room. I don't take it personally when someone blocks the bike lane, walks shoulder to shoulder. It's like, I wish I could educate them in a moment, but often people, when they're doing things wrong, they feel a little stupid, and the feeling stupid often translates into getting angry quite quickly, and you're like, ooh, and then all of a sudden you don't have like an investment in this exchange, but you're like, you kind of want to help the person out, but then they're mad, and you honestly, it's hardly worth having these conversations in the street, which is also why we're doing this video, because
Well, for the most part, I try to approach it with like good energy. I try to bring good energy to the interaction, like, oh, I'm behind you. Oh, guys, you're in a bike lane. And then the energy they throw back is usually how it shapes how the interaction will go.
Approaching with an open and positive energy is a very good tactic. But it's also, it does take a level of experience and expertise with your own riding to feel confident enough to not get flustered and angry or frustrated. So I think the best thing to do is often just take a breath and slow down and like don't take it to heart too much. So we had...
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add one more thing. Like, it's also important to just communicate. When you are like, I'm so much faster, I'm going to go around this person, and you don't say anything, and you just whiz by, and you don't give me room to move over.
Yeah. It's stressful. It's absolutely stressful. And it's funny, too, because like I've had that happen to me. Sorry, what was that?
I was just like, come on.
Having a close pass without a bell, without any verbal something, like that's, again, signal your intentions. Let people know what you're doing and yield to them. Like if you're approaching someone, you see them, they don't necessarily see you.
Probably not, yeah.
Probably we don't have eyes in the back of our head. Some people do have helmet cams, but that doesn't mean they're getting a live feed
or
into
like a
some
little
Google
mirror
Lens.
or whatever. But like even those things are not perfect, right?
Did we do, we're on don't pass streetcar doors, yield to pedestrians. So the other one, pedestrian centric, don't ride on the sidewalk. Like, you shouldn't be riding on the sidewalk unless you're a small child.
Yeah.
Like, that's the exception. Small children, yes, ride on the sidewalk slowly. Still yield to pedestrians. They're, oh yeah, carries a heavy fine. That's a good note. So there's a fine for riding on the sidewalk. It's unlikely you're going to get it.
If you injure someone, it can be like $600. Like if you're riding on the sidewalk causes an injury, but there are some areas where like going through Mississauga, you'll see posted on every intersection, do not ride on the sidewalk. You can get fined this amount. And you'll also see that there's no bike infrastructure there.
Yeah. What I also find interesting is often in the further outside the downtown core you get, like if I'm doing a bigger ride, I'm connecting some like, forested nice routes. Oh, there's construction. I have to go on the main ride or the main route. There'll be like either a underpass where there's no real bike lane, and then they have the little painting, walk your bike. There's no one on the sidewalk. That is an exception. I might just ride on the sidewalk to go onto the underpass, assuming there's no one else there. And of course, use your best judgment. But if I ran into someone under the underpass, I'd stop. Dismount, let them go. But like, I also take kind of offense to the like, walk your bike. Walk my bike, why? Because you didn't want to give any road space? Like, they're just saying like, no, you're not welcome here, is what that says.
Well, yeah, get out of your car then.
Yeah, push your car.
Push.
Put your foot down, push your car.
Fred Flintstone time.
So the final note of this is just don't rush. I think that's the easiest takeaway of making everything better is just like with car accidents, speed is a factor. Speed is probably the most dangerous factor for a lot of accidents. And if you just slow down, you just decrease your risk. You increase the amount of stopping time you get. You also basically don't catch people off guard so much. And to wrap this whole section up about general etiquette.
I left on time. You're mad because you're late. I left on time.
That's actually one of the reasons I like to bike is I can steadily and predictably know how long something's going to take.
I'm in control of my own lateness.
When I drive, I'm stuck in traffic. I don't know how long it's going to take. Traffic varies. Someone crashed into another person because they're on their phone, and now traffic's worse. And like, yeah, that's frustrating. It's unpredictable. But theoretically, a bike is quite predictable with a little flexibility.
No matter the mode of transport, leave a little early.
Yeah, give yourself time. The more time you give, the more relaxing and enjoyable the actual experience of the ride or I don't want to pretend a commute can be enjoyable except on a bike. That's why I bike. It can be like, I mean, our transit's fine. It's not as good as a bike. I'm going to choose a bike every time, at least in my opinion.
There's a level of unreliability right now, for sure, with transit stuff.
So just to wrap up our like general etiquette and pet peeve section. Most of these are pretty innocuous, and you might catch yourself doing one or two of them, or you'd be like, oh, guilty. Don't feel like this is like an attack on you. The problem compounds. Like, it's people riding unpredictably.
I've done all these things.
Yeah, we've all, and it's also a learning curve. Like, the more you know, the better you can be.
Not all at once, though.
That is the problem. People who, if someone's rushing, they're riding on the sidewalk, they're riding contraflow, they got headphones on. Like, that just makes it awful to ride near someone. And you're like, cool, they're unpredictable. I don't know where they're riding. I need to slow down to let them figure out what the hell they're doing. And I think that's my biggest frustration is it's not about one. One is forgivable. Well, no, it's but like they just get worse and worse and worse.
Every person does at least one of those things at least some of the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, some of y'all, are doing all of these things all of the time, every time you ride.
Certain of them you shouldn't, Pat. Like, don't run red lights ever. There's never a good look to run a red light unless, like, you know, it's literally you're driving an ambulance or and like, someone's in an emergency. That's when you run a red light. You're an emergency vehicle. This is not targeting you.
You get a pass.
Fire trucks, pass. But, like, let's be honest, most of you don't get a pass. All right, so a couple just, like, basic rules just to reiterate. Never passing on the right. So like if you imagine a car is turning right in front of you, don't pass them on the right, right? It seems
easy one.
It seems like an easy one. I've seen this happen way more than I care to admit, but I've seen cyclists that just don't know better. Like there is an order of operations at an intersection. If you get there first, you do get first priority. We still have a couple order of our operations. We have pedestrians get priority, but you also see pedestrians get an early cross to allow them to do that. But let's be honest, a lot of cars do turn too early and they shut down the bike lane because theoretically if there's pedestrians, there's an early cross. It's nice to be able to filter to the right. But that's probably the most easily dangerous situation because you are coming up through someone's blind spot on the right side. They're focusing on what cars are coming and what's in front of them. They're looking at pedestrians. It's a lot for people. And as we mentioned earlier, there's lots of we're just saying road users. It may be a little more targeted in this moment at maybe a bad driver that's not very attentive at what's behind them, but only looking in front. So if you pass on the right, you are putting yourself in danger. And I've had people then get mad at the car that they passed on the right when the person in the car was like midway through their turn.
I mean, people in cars do tend to begin executing the turn way too early and way too far. Like they will like basically butt up to pedestrians while they're still crossing.
Yeah.
And try to
like
push their way through the people walking.
Which is like not okay.
Yeah.
But I think there's a like a misinterpretation of there's a bike lane. There's no like I should just be able to blow through. Like yield to the car, please. Like also like cars like you so much more if you wave them through, just to make sure they're very clear. If you're not sure about it, you can wait behind the car. If you're a little more confident, you can pass on the left if it's clear. So you can stop, shoulder check, make sure there's no one else coming. You can go around on the left. Most cars appreciate that because then it's like, great, they're turning, you know they're turning. They know you see them because you've created an evasive maneuver to go around them, and then there's like no conflict.
Having the right of way is awesome, but you have to evaluate whether you'd rather be right or be alive, right?
Yeah. Because like just yielding, not rushing are like the number one rules. Slow down, yield to what's in front of you. You're coming up to something versus like being approached from behind. Obviously, you have a little more control over that situation than someone who's at a standstill trying to navigate a turn, right? And let's be honest, drivers are often stressed already, and like clearly some people get really triggered and stressed by just turning around a corner. There's people around, they're not used to that many people around, whatever.
For whatever reason.
Maybe they shouldn't drive if that's how they feel and that's like a trigger for them, but like just use your best judgment. So
if you feel very activated by driving, you shouldn't have to drive. And it's unfortunate that we live in a society where you have to drive a lot of the time.
Yeah. I will also say, similarly, our next point here for basic rules, stay to the right. If you have a bike lane, stick to the right. Generally, you don't have to hug the curb, but stay on the right. If there's like an amount of space, you're going to be generally on the 50% to the right. So people have space to pass.
This can be challenging sometimes with like storm grates or whatever when there's things that aren't level or make it challenging to ride across, but just as a general rule.
Yeah, and this also applies to bikes. You shouldn't pass people on the right. I've actually definitely tried to like slow down and educate people, especially if I know they're working and they're like clearly like a less experienced cyclist. Like that to me just tells me you don't know what you're doing yet. So I try to be like, hey, just so you know, you should never pass on the right, because just like you wouldn't want to pass a car on the right, like, I don't expect to see a cyclist on my right because I should be on the right generally. Also stay aware.
I'm not leaving that much room. How are you squeezing through?
Exactly. And I've definitely been really caught off guard. And then again, you have that like tension and frustration, and then it turns to anger. Something like, why are you passing me on the right? And it's just like, it's just not, it's a really good way to stress other people out and create dangerous situations where it's like, I'm shoulder checking on my left generally. I'm going to look over here if I'm veering around a storm grate or something. Or maybe I'm taking the next right and I'm checking, I'm making sure I have space to turn, and then someone tries to squeeze it on the right while I'm right turning.
Also, do you guys not have bells? Use your bell. Or are you scared to say that you're here? Like, I'm on your left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, ring your bell, stay on your left, and bottom line, yield to others. If you have control of the situation, you're approaching a situation, you have the power to kind of like control how this interaction goes. So yielding to others, signaling, slowing down, these are all like super valid, easy options just to make everyone's ride better, including your own, because you're not going to stress out other people. You're not going to get into a weird altercation if you're actually yielding.
I mean, that's our theme. We're all trying to get somewhere.
We're all trying to get somewhere. So we are going to have a couple tips here, and then we're also going to talk a little bit about things that aren't legal that we'd like to see changed.
Aren't legal yet,
or legal in different jurisdictions. So a big tip I find is cars will often, like this comes with experience of course, but cars will usually tell you what they're doing without actually telling you. You can kind of read a car's body language. So for example, if a car wants to turn right, usually you can kind of tell someone's thinking in the car because it starts to slow down.
It's very easy to signal, but sometimes people don't.
Or sometimes it's the last step, right? They do all the like prep work before they prepare to signal, and you can see, okay, they're drifting gently to the right.
They're slowing down.
Maybe they're not following the next piece of traffic. Like that's a really big gap to leave, and you can kind of sense, okay, they're turning right. So maybe that's not the right time to try to pass on the right. So you want to yield to that person, give them some space, let them figure out what's going on. There's a good chance they're going to start indicating almost immediately. After that, sometimes the timing is just off the rails. A lot of people just don't signal, I have noticed.
Yeah.
But That's one of those ones where it's like, I was even trying to find some clips of like a right hook accident type thing, and I was like, ugh, they're often bad. But as a cyclist with some experience, I was like, man, these people are rushing, and if you just kind of wind back the intensity on the riding, often the stuff that is leading to the like potential right hook or those altercations or impacts or whatever happens, they often are quite avoidable. They're not always avoidable, but I think people assume there's this high level of danger, and the danger is often controllable. Because if you temper your speed and you make sure you're signaling your intentions, it just means you have more reaction time. You'll have a better time.
Cars are slowing down. You should slow down too.
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling like the area you're in is unsafe, road traffic is not leaving you a lot of space, there's nowhere to really move around and navigate, you can get off your bike. That's one of the great things about bikes. You can get off and become a pedestrian.
Multimodal.
Yes. And, it gives you a chance to compose yourself,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's also like my biggest advice for anyone who's new to cycling is like, don't feel like you have to always be riding. Because walking is legit, and if the infrastructure feels
Walking's
bad,
legit.
just walk. Like it's such a nice way to be like, I feel stressed out. I don't know exactly. Like it's hard to sometimes figure out infrastructure if it's your first time riding through an area. Sometimes it's good to suss it out. It's like when I mountain bike, if I'm not familiar with the trail, sometimes I'll get off and look at what I'm going to ride over before I ride the thing. So I'm not just, overwhelmed with stimulation in that moment.
Being surprised by things, caught off guard.
Exactly. The other note we had was to look ahead. So I think this is also something I find.
It's like driving.
You say it's like driving, but I find more often than not, drivers are not looking ahead. They get tunnel vision. They see there's a bike ahead of me. I need to race the bike.
It's one of the first things you learn.
It is. But I'm looking ahead to see what
Yeah.
light is happening, and maybe 2 lights ahead just to try to time them. I'm like, oh, the next light's red. I'm going to slow down a little and just keep a moderate pace. Hopefully
Or
it'll
like
turn
this
green.
one's counting down,
Yeah.
that one's already stopped. I don't need to be pushing to get through here.
I have been accused by car drivers of being fast, and I was like, this is ironic because I'm actually going very moderate to slow. I just know how to time the lights. So
I'm almost never pushing myself too hard.
They're driving hard and fast, stopping, hard and fast and stopping. And I, on the other hand, am taking a very moderate pace, looking ahead. Ooh, that's a red. Okay, it's green. Let's pick up the pace a little, go a little faster. Oh, perfect. The next light just turned green. I have momentum. Let's carry it on and just hit green after green after green. So people confuse not hitting all the reds with going fast. I'm like, I'm actually going at a very comfortable pace. I'm just choosing to moderate and adjust that pace according to traffic conditions and what I have coming up. So that is a super good tip though. Just like look ahead, adjust your speed accordingly, and it's way easier to ride.
There's no prize for being the first person at the red.
Yeah.
You get to wait longer.
Yeah. I think it's also a trigger for a lot of drivers when they see that like they ripped past you and then like you time the light. So it's like a
And
magic
we're meeting
button.
each other at the red light over and over and
No,
over.
they see you though. You pull forward, and then as you're about to enter, the timing symbol, it just turns green, and somehow you manage to clear the intersection before they even get to start. And that clearly is a set off for people because they think, I just passed that cycle. Like, well,
they often tend to rip ahead from there too.
I've often been joking actually about how what would kill vehicle sales in cities is if you actually had average speed, because like a bike computer has an average speed and you can constantly see how good your average is because you're trying to bring that up. But if you just go fast and slow down, go ahead, your average speed's terrible. So people often speed to try to compensate, to like make it feel like they're getting
bring
somewhere
their
faster.
average up.
Bring their average up. But like if you're sitting at a light, that's bringing your average down so much. If you speed and drive dangerously between just sitting at a standstill, it's just you're still not going anywhere fast. And that's why a bike is often like pretty much on par for doing that moderate speed the whole time. The other tip we had was be compassionate.
Be nice to each other.
Yeah, and this is for other bikes, for other drivers, for pedestrians. We're all human. We're all trying to get places, and that's I think such like a funny.
We've said that so many times, but people forget everyone else is traveling somewhere too.
People have a family to get home to, or pets.
Some people have families.
Some people have cats at home and they're hungry. You need to make sure that cat gets fed. And this is where we put kittens on the screen. Just cut to the kittens.
And if you don't have a family and you don't have your pets to get home to, you have your Discord server to get home to.
All right, so moving on a little bit, because we're going over time a little bit. So I think changes we want to see on the road. One of my biggest frustrations is our lack of foresight for the Idaho stop. If you don't know what the Idaho stop is, it's effectively, it treats stop signs as yields. So as a cyclist only, this is a specific cyclist thing. There's lots of also great like anecdotal evidence. If you see like there's like a bike scramble style intersection in Amsterdam, and you see just like a chaotically huge intersection, and you watch bikes go in every direction all at once. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is so stressful. But the thing is no one's rushing. Everyone's yielding. They're literally doing all the things we've been talking about today. Just like not stressing. Everyone's just kind of going their way. It just flows. It finds a way. Because a lot of traffic control effort is centered around cars. Cars go too fast. Cars are dangerous. They're heavy. They're isolating. So we need to control the speeds. And that's what a lot of the stuff is about. And the Idaho stop is basically maintaining the efficiency of a bicycle. You're not having to stop dead at every stop sign. You still have to stop at a stoplight. But the point is, you don't have to like fully lose all your momentum when there's absolutely no one around you or no one's at the intersection actively. Cars still need to stop, but the point is, treat a stop sign as a yield.
I think also the ease of stopping is part of why that is so efficient. When you come to a full and complete stop, plant your foot on the ground at every single stop sign, the effort required to get started again, or like if you're shifting down or whatever, like you are losing momentum. You are not traveling efficiency. You're not traveling efficiently anymore,
The other thing is if you take quiet and residential streets, they usually have lots of stop signs. Mm-hmm. And what feels like a safe cycling route, all of a sudden it's just like barely rideable because you have to stop so much, it takes enough time to start again. It actually creates a more dangerous situation for the bike because drivers get impatient. And ironically, the Idaho stop is effectively how everyone treats a car, though. Because if like people are like,
some cars are doing Idaho stops all day long.
Exactly. People say, "Oh, bikes never stop," and like, why are we making these generalizations? Because there's so much evidence. Almost no cars even stop at a stop sign.
When you see a car coming to a rolling stop, it's not as hard for them to stop as it is for me to stop. But I'm doing it because I respect other people.
Yeah.
They're not doing it
because their foot has to move over and back. That's a lot of effort. But yeah, anyways, I think basically the frustrating thing about the Idaho stop, or the lack of the Idaho stop in Toronto, is the fact that, I don't hear as much, I don't see as much ticketing of cyclists unless it's a random blitz. In all honesty, I don't hear a lot about ticketing in Toronto anymore for road stuff, so it feels like it's kind of a bit of a Wild West situation because we've reeled back on doing any traffic enforcement. But what's frustrating is it just means if a police officer sees you slow down and yield and not come to a full stop, not put your foot down or something, they can choose to pull you over and basically harass you for other reasons. And it's just like, there isn't like an epidemic of people getting hit by crazy cyclists running through it. And the point is, again, it's yielding. Like if you're slowing down and yielding versus ripping through stop signs, funny enough, I have a stop sign right up the street from my house. I watch drunk drivers all weekend long just run it, not even yield, just run it. And whenever I'm coming down, there's speed bumps on my street. I'm going to a stop and people think, oh, this is my chance to pass. And it's like the same thing. It's like the filtering. And then they think if they stop less, they're going to get ahead of me. I'm like, you're not. There's speed bumps. And then I just listen to them scraping their bumpers, speeding through the stop sign, hit it. It's just like, it's such chaotic behavior. Just they think, I gotta get past the cyclist. And they're so like focused on passing a cyclist, they're willing to run a stop sign, speed in a school zone, scrape their bumper. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, it's just unhinged. Anyways, I think it's time for the next point because I'm just gonna go off on another tangent. Would you like to take this one?
Oh no, this is another Owen.
This is definitely one. I do think one of the most dangerous tendencies though on motor vehicle travel is right-hand turns on reds. And I understand that people, again, they perceive this as their right to turn on a red light, but people mix up kind of like the yielding thing. The whole point of a right-hand turn on red, hey, there's no one there, I can kind of filter through and join traffic. That's great. The reality in downtown Toronto is...
people are just looking for an opening in which to like cram themselves in, whether it's safe or not. Yeah.
I find people don't even stop for the red and just swing in. They do it
Yeah.
also on bikes. It's also dangerous. I just think people see a red and it's like a suggestion now. It's like, no, you stop at a red completely and proceed if the coast is clear. If there's no pedestrians, you're not impeding traffic, you're not butting in through the bike lane. But more often than not, people come in through residential streets. We're talking about people not checking and doing the same thing on bikes. Bikes do it, cars do it. I think it's dangerous. I don't think it's nearly as dangerous for a bike to, kind of proceed through a red light to do a right-hand turn. But cars doing it rampantly, I just find is like, it's so dangerous. Obviously, traffic, control stuff needs to be adjusted, because if you can't turn right on a red, there's a ton of pedestrians. Maybe you just need an advanced turn. Just like you get advanced,
sure.
you need to think outside the box of like ways you can safely get people actually moving through the intersection with some designated time. We probably need more scrambles. We probably need some advanced. Everyone can turn right. Let everyone turn right at once.
Pedestrian crossing begins earlier, but it also ends earlier.
Yeah, there's other ways to address people being able to turn right with traffic, with pedestrians, with bikes. It's just allowing people to turn right on red. I recently actually had an instance of I'm at a red light, I'm waiting for my turn, and then someone close past me, almost hitting me, like literally from like inches, and then they just felt, well, it's a red light. I can turn on a red. And I'm like, but you can't close past me to do that. You're seeing one rule and taking that as this is my right. And it's like, well, I have the right of like space. And like, if you hit me to get to that point, it's not legal anymore. People just put it before everything, and I think that's my biggest frustration.
One of the challenges too is there are a lot of lights where you can't turn right on a red, but only within certain days and certain hours, and it's very unlikely that people are going to be sat there reading the minutia of when they're allowed to do something.
Yeah.
It's going to just become like something you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one is actually
I feel very passionately about this.
I feel passionately about this, but I also think it's an interesting gray area, and I think we've also I don't want to say institutionally, but I think like we've gotten too far away from it to make it easy to implement anymore, and that's my frustration, and I'll elaborate more. But this is bikes getting the early lead off with pedestrians, because we were talking about how when you get an early signal for pedestrians to allow them to not get crushed by cars trying to like jump the gun. The whole point is to prioritize. In that hierarchy, we have pedestrians up there. But we were saying how we consider the pedestrian signal kind of like a vulnerable road user, because
that's like a protective measure for vulnerable road users.
Yeah.
But then not including bikes in that is kind of a mistake. We are also vulnerable road users. We are not protected by a huge metal box. We are also just out here. In the world. Often
it does create a safer experience for the cyclist. And I think this is where people, I think, kind of shut this out. If they're a car driver, they're like, oh, bikes, lead off through the red. Well, the point is if there is a need for a bike to merge, they need to be established in the street. They want to get past the pinch point before cars try to squeeze them out, because cars will do that. And I've had to
you will not be able to enter, cars will never give you a bit of grace in getting somewhere. We all want to just give each other some grace, right?
We also just want to get places. We have places to go. The point is, bikes want to filter and clear the intersection and get out of the car's way. And I think that's a completely legitimate way to go about it. So the tricky thing that I find, my example, it's because we do this one all the time, but if you're going, it's Hoskin, isn't it? When you're Hoskin to Queen's Park?
Yes.
So if you're traveling eastbound on Hoskin, kind of on the U of T campus, the tricky thing is you are going ahead and then it turns, it's Queen's Park going south right. It's only right-hand traffic. So you have a bike lane ending there going through the park, but also a bike lane connecting, going southbound on the other side. You have pedestrians also crossing. So we have three signals. We have a pedestrian signal, we have a bike signal, and we have a car signal. This signal...
And we have turn signals for each of the cars' lanes. There's like a...
But it's only turn, right? So all cars going forward are going right.
Oh, sorry. I was also talking about the other direction, because they also have they get to turn.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll go back. You can start that. We don't have to get into it.
I don't want to talk about that because it's already explaining it in a second. But the trouble is, you want to go straight through the park or join with where you're going. So... there's three signals. And if you get in the habit of using that advanced, vulnerable road user or pedestrian crossing, it actually can get you into trouble. It can also get you into trouble if you start following the normal road signals. If you're a driver trying to bike, you're used to just looking at the green light. So you say, oh, green light, we go. And you're like, no, because all the cars are given priority to swing right. And they're all trying to get down to Queen's Park and race around the park. So they start going. If you go, and I've seen people go, and it's horribly stressful watching a bike try to start going with the cars. And it's like, no, they're all going full speed and they're trying to get ahead of you. So we get into trouble because if you're a driver converting to bikes, you start to look at not the bike signal, because bike signals in the grand scheme of things are kind of new.
They're also inconsistent with how they're implemented, right? Sometimes there is an independent, like bikes go and other traffic is doing something different.
Well, I think what's also confusing is often the implementation of a bike signal is redundant. It's literally just complete, because it's not paired with the vulnerable road user mentality. They're just like, okay, pedestrians, you get advance, but then all the bikes, all the cars go at once. So people get used to treating a bike signal on par with a traffic signal. So then you get this mixed message. So it's like, oh, sometimes I can go with the green light. Sometimes I have to go with the bike signal. Sometimes it actually might be safer to go with the pedestrian light. So it's like there's never an easy answer. And that's why I feel we've almost gotten too far away from the
Well, it's also that inconsistency that means people are kind of looking at it and making their own judgments about what they're going to do instead of what they actually should be doing.
And that's honestly one of the huge, pinch points, I think, in just like the logic of how bikes want to move around the city is like, you can't just create blanket statements necessarily for everything. That's why we were like, okay, let's talk about etiquette. We got to talk about following the rules and like actually like trying to make things better, because those points of contention become a lot more clear when everything else is laid out simply and you have a logical flow for most of your travel. And there are going to be points where you have to think on the fly, you have to make a decision, but like there are safe choices. And what we said, slow down. You got to actually like yield to others, take a moment to look around. If you're not sure, you can get off and walk. And that's actually a great thing. Once you establish what the traffic signal is doing and what's happening around you, it's much less dangerous.
I think that's also why this episode is not about bike lane rules. It's about bike lane etiquette, because much like etiquette, it's a set of social guidelines for you to navigate situations that are all in independent contexts from one another. And you make decisions about how you are going to be good to others in each of those situations. With social etiquette, similarly, you use your best judgment with bike lane etiquette too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we don't want to shame people into like, oh, you got to follow all the rules. Our point is, if you follow the rules and these like general etiquettes, it's going to be just a more pleasant experience for not only you, but everyone around you, including car drivers, including pedestrians. And I think that's my hope, is like people see, oh, there's infrastructure, I feel safer using it, but also like have a little more clear view of what they should be doing to make it better for everyone.
It's not cyclist etiquette either, because it's bike lane etiquette. We touched on being polite as a pedestrian, sharing space with cyclists. We've touched on being polite as a driver, sharing space with cyclists, and also cyclists sharing space with one another. That is what it's all about, just being good to one another.
So I think that covered all our major points, but thanks for listening to the end if you made it this far. We'd love to hear your comments and thoughts about some of the things we've suggested. Like, do you want to see things like the Idaho stop legalized? Do you think rights on reds are good or bad?
Vulnerable road users having the advantage in crossings.
So thanks again for watching. If you like this form of content, feel free to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to us if you follow along on our journey. And hopefully we'll tune in next time and let us know what you want to hear us talk about next.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
See you next time.